The words for our chalice lighting are by the Reverend Christine Robinson. In our time of grief, we light a flame of sharing, the flame of ongoing life. In this time when we search for understanding and serenity in the face of loss, we light this sign of our quest for truth, meaning, and community.
We gather today in the house of remembrance. Rachel Williams, sister, protector, aunt, artist, colleague, friend, and so much more, has died. We gather in the shadow of death because the spirit of life demands to be heard. We meet with sorrow in our hearts, but with thankfulness also for the good things of life that we shared with Rachel. We meet to give form to our grief, to seek the comfort of one another's presence, and to make an important gesture of farewell. We come together with age-old questions in our minds and on our lips and in our eyes. Why her? Why now? What now? And in our hearts, the deep wisdom knowing without answers that even in the shadow of her death, we will hear the spirit of her life. Let this hour be love's hour, and these simple rites love's confessional, for it is love's tribute that we come to offer today. Here, let the memory of Rachel become for us a sacred bond to all that she held dear, to the source of life in which she had her being, and to whose everlasting rhythm she is returned. As we gather to honor Rachel and her life, it is appropriate to set aside a few moments to reflect on the meaning of our larger humanity and the reality of death and sorrow which one day will come to us all. Let us turn now to the wisdom of the poets and the sages. May we take strength from their words of compassion and courage.
The Journey by Lillian Smith. Without words, it comes, and suddenly, sharply, one is aware of being separated from every person on one's earth and every object, and from the beginning of things, and from the future, and even a little from oneself. A moment before, one was happily playing. The world was round and friendly. Now at one's feet, there are chasms that had been invisible until this moment, and one knows and never remembers how it was learned that there will always be chasms, and across the chasms will always be those one loves.
I now invite you to hear these words chosen specifically by Rachel herself. It was left of me away now that I'm gone. Remember me with a smile and laughter. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother and sister who walk in grief beside you. And when you need me, put your arm around anyone and give to them what you need to give me. I want to leave you with something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved or helped in some special way. Let me live in your eyes as well as in your mind. You can love me most by letting love live within the circle of your arms, embracing the frightened ones. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, I'll see you at home, where I'll be waiting.
We Bereaved by Helen Keller. We bereaved are not alone. We belong to the largest company in all the world, the company of those who have known suffering. When it seems that our sorrow is too great to be borne, let us think of the great family of the heavy-hearted into which our grief has given us entrance. And inevitably, we will feel about us their arms, their sympathy, their understanding.
A lifelong learner. The list of things that she did, created, tried, or learned is a bold witness to her curiosity about life. From leather wallets to glass chalices, from wedding cakes to stained glass cake toppers, from photography to theater, from fencing to archery, she had an amazing ability to express herself in diverse media, and I suspect she would love the baby noises that are happening now. Rachel Williams was born on June 14, 1957 in Geneva, Illinois, the first child of Robert and Carolyn Williams. Her sister Gretchen was born 2 years later, and their brother James 2.5 years after that. Together, the siblings were the three sillies. When Rachel was 6, the family was in a devastating car wreck. Though the children were unharmed, their father was killed and their mother was critically injured. This incident not only bonded the siblings, but also created strong ties with the cousins who they had been on their way to visit. Rachel became the protector of her younger siblings, excelling in the role of the eldest child. She did everything first, did well at school without much studying, much to her sister Gretchen's frustration, and she developed an insatiable curiosity. But don't get the idea that she was an overly serious child. Even from a young age, her smile and laughter would light up a room, and her cousin Rosalie remembers that when playing Barbies together, Rachel wouldn't have them talk to each other, but instead would have them sing to each other. This sense of delight and curiosity continued throughout her life. She was a voracious reader, often occupying the family bathroom for much longer than was reasonable, or staying up late into the night so that she could complete the book that she was reading. And she always had a camera with her. Though she was frustrated with her weight for most of her life, this did not prevent her from expressing herself physically. In high school, she was in theater and on the swim team and did fencing. Later, she learned archery. She played piano, Moonlight Sonata, apparently repeatedly, and as an adult even built her own harp. Her curiosity and her engagement sometimes butted heads with her competitive spirit, especially at family games like Trivial Pursuit, so much so that Rachel described herself as a bad winner. Rachel graduated from Geneva High School in 1975 and began attending Carthage College in Kenosha. Unfortunately, she contracted mono in her freshman year at Carthage and had to come home, and she was unable to finish school there. But this did not stop her love of learning. A little while later, she enrolled at Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, majoring in photography. Indeed, her family is unsure just how many degrees Rachel earned, nor the countless number of non-degree classes, workshops, and trainings she took. She was always learning something new. And then something else would catch her interest and she would get sidetracked going down another path. Her family and friends likened her to a crow, in that you could see her eyes light up when she encountered anything new, sparkly, or shiny. Romantically, things were a bit more complicated for her. Though she was engaged briefly as a young adult, that did not work out. In the 80s, she came out to her family. The last 20 years of her life, she did not have a prolonged romantic relationship, but instead, she created an expansive chosen family, which combined with her biological family was the community that she needed to thrive. Rachel also dabbled vocationally. In high school, she briefly worked at a dry cleaner's, but got fired because apparently she didn't have enough enthusiasm for the work. I'm sure this is shocking to all of you. Future jobs found her enjoying herself much more. She worked at a hotel while at Northern and even began making cakes for them. She worked as a picture framer for a while and enjoyed the creative aspects of the work, but eventually she wanted to make more money and so went back to school to become a computer programmer, a job that allowed her to use her creativity and her problem-solving skills in a new venue that was able to support her growing family. And by her growing family, I am referring in large part to her furry four-legged family. Rachel always had cats and dogs, and often they were ones that were high needs. They were well loved and cared for. At the time of her death, she had 4 beloved cats and a dog in her small condo, to the dismay of her asthma. And when the housekeeping would get to be too much, resourceful as always, she would trade cleaning for mending or quilting or something else that appealed more to her creative side. But it wasn't just her furry family that was growing. Her friends and family were having children, and she was always there for her countless nieces, nephews, and cousins, biological and chosen. She was the beloved aunt to many, many people, taking an active interest in their lives. In fact, it was partly due to her dear friend Maura's kids that Rachel ended up here at Unity Temple Unitarian Universalist congregation. Rachel wanted community. She had been raised Episcopalian and Lutheran, but hadn't been going to church in a while. She tried out Unity Temple, and pretty soon Siobhan and TJ were involved in the youth program. And that allowed Rachel to dive right into the congregation. She was involved in the Women's Connections retreats, always leading craft projects. She participated in book group and on movie nights. She provided babysitting for some folks in the church, and she was an inaugural member of the Bell Choir, which coincidentally will be playing in the service tomorrow. Congregants loved how patient she was and how kind. In emails to me, they noted her smile, her laughter, her welcoming spirit, how she embodied love, light, and creativity. Unfortunately, Rachel's health wasn't the best. She would say that she had a superpower for forming kidney stones, including once passing one on a transatlantic flight. A few weeks ago, she got a blood clot in her lung, and things quickly deteriorated. Rachel was upbeat, but aware of the gravity of the situation. Her friends and family gathered, expressing what a gift it was for Rachel's biological family to meet and develop relationships with her chosen family and vice versa. Each group had heard stories about each other, but mostly hadn't met. But they shared the same thing in common, a love for Rachel, who was creating family and connections, even as her body failed. As her health deteriorated, Rachel eventually had to go on a ventilator. When it became clear that this was not what she would have wanted, life support was removed, and Rachel died on November 3rd. Competitive to the end, after life support was removed, Rachel fought and held on for 4 days, 1 day longer than her mother had. But it is not her death for which we will remember Rachel. Instead, we will remember her loving, creative nature. She was open, accepting, encouraging to all, with never a harsh or an unkind word. We will remember her curiosity, her lifelong love of learning, her ability to roll with the punches. We will remember her smile and her laughter, the legendary caramels she made every holiday season. And we will remember that she gave the best hugs and back rubs. For Rachel, life may have had challenges to overcome, but there was always something new waiting to be discovered. And as we heard in our reading earlier, the best of Rachel is not lost. Indeed, we can pay tribute to her now by embracing these qualities and values that we cherished in her and embodying them in our own lives. In this way, her memory will live on in the love that she shared. In this way, she will be a presence forever in the hearts of all who knew her. Let us join now in the responsive reading printed in your order of service. I will read the regular font, and I invite you to read the words that are in bold. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember her. When a beloved person dies, her friends and family gather together for many reasons. At such a time, the various faiths which sustain us separately come together across a harmony that acts across all creeds, a harmony that assures us of the permanence of goodness, the inspiration of friendship, and the value of a serviceable life. It is good for us to speak of those qualities for which that we treasured in Rachel. For by speaking of them, they become somehow vital and enduring, and they grow into us so that we take on what we loved so much about her, and she becomes a part of us forever. And so I invite those of you who would care to do so to come forward to the microphone that's on the floor right down there and to briefly share a memory of Rachel.
I hate public speaking, so I brought an understudy in case I can't get through this. I'm Maura, Rachel's friend of, 35 years. And this is a poem I wrote for her. For Rachel, where have you gone, dear friend? Where the spark, the open, generous heart? Where have you gone, old crow? Where the whimsy, the impish curiosity in those blue eyes? Where have you gone, my companion? For this road is steep without you, and my way unclear. Oh, where have you gone? Then comes a gentle rain, soft and warm to mingle with my tears. And there you are, when the stories flow and the colors dance. There you are, and in the beating of my heart and the grace of every day, there you shall always be.
Hi, my name's Linda. I don't have any prepared remarks. Just for as long as I can remember, Rachel has been a part of my adult life. She was there for me. Oddly enough, I met her on a softball team. She wasn't on the softball team very long, but she kept the friends that she made. And because of Rachel, I was able to take that big step and leave my parents' home, and she was my first roommate, kind of when I grew up, I guess. I lived with Rachel for a while above the frame shop, and I was there when she married a man from England, briefly. All the details are swirling around. I knew her cat Esau, her beloved Esau, and Mr. Peepers. I was there, and I was part of the derangement of Mr. Peepers with playing with the cat toys and just seeing how high that cat could jump. We just had the best time in that apartment, and I just watched her go through so many things that she was able to be interested in, perfect, figure out how it worked, and she went on to the next thing. I think the dulcimer has been left out of the things I've seen. I think that was before the harp. She made a dulcimer. Could play the dulcimer, of course. She didn't just make the instruments, she played them. And for decades now, I've been walking into her place saying, "Did you make that?" "Yeah." "Did you make that?" "Yes." And then she'd say, "Do you want that?" So I have a few things. I have a cherished quilted giraffe that I still don't know how she made that giraffe. It's the cutest thing. I just have it sitting out, and now I pick up the giraffe and I give it a little squeeze every once in a while, just thinking it'll help. It doesn't help. I was one of the people who made caramels with Rachel. So if you've ever unwrapped one of her caramels, I cut that paper. That was my superpower, was cutting wax paper into tiny squares over and over. First, I had to make room on the table, which, as many of you can imagine, was probably not. It wasn't easy to do, to make room, a clear space to make the caramels. But I have some friends up here. My wife, Liz, who got to love Rachel for 10 years. My friend, Phyllis, who has loved Rachel as long as I have for 30, maybe not 35, 34, 33 years. She was there through every transition I had. She was the one that I called when I lost my cat. When I thought I lost my cat. I didn't lose my cat, but Rachel found my cat in the closet. She had to come all the way from North Riverside to Oak Park to show me where the cat was. She was that one person that you knew could figure it out. Every year, Carmel's, we watched It's a Wonderful Life. Every year. And now I realize, because of Rachel, my life is so much more wonderful than it would have been without her. I could go on, but it's just really inconceivable. It's just going to be a lot less interesting without Rachel, because she was the most interesting, creative, I don't know how she did it, kind of a person you could ever imagine. We loved her very much. Thank you for listening to me ramble.
I'm the brother. Let's see if I can get through this. Rachel was our protector. She always protected me because we had a stepdad that was not a great person, and she was smarter than him. And she could debate that guy. Family, I met all Rachel's friends. I work in Chicago, but I live in North Carolina, and every time I would come into town, I'd be like, hey, Rach, I'm in town for like 2 days. Let's get together. I'm busy. She had more stuff going on. I was like, and now I know why. All her great friends. But anyway, she always made time for family and friends, and one other thing she always did was she would always get a really obnoxious Christmas present that made a lot of noise and give it to all the kids, and then it would be like, here comes the present. Anyway, love her and I miss her.
Hello, everyone. My name is Phyllis Coglianese, also known as Rambo. We all had nicknames on the softball team. I acquired Rambo. It's another story. It's another engagement. I, too, shared some major life changes with Rachel. I was a kid when I met her, just in college. And one of my dogs had died, Spanky, and it was devastating. And she was there. She was there. And all I was worried about was vacuuming. You just go somewhere else when it hurts so bad. And she took the vacuum out of my hand, and she said, you don't need to do that right now. And we just mourned my little Spanky. And if you didn't get bit by Spanky, you didn't know Spanky. But she loved all my animals. And I know she loved me. And she will be forever in my heart. And it was so good to meet some of her family. Oh, she talked about her family all the time. I will never forget you, Rachel. You are forever in my heart. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ed Williams. I'm the oldest grandchild and the oldest cousin. We came from very good stock, and I'd like to share some memories. I'm talking about 1960. This goes way back, way back. Our grandfather was the chauffeur for Colonel Fabian on the Fabian's Force Preserve, and later he became the Force Preserve keeper. Very, very talented guy. He was probably 120 pounds, soaking wet, but he could lift those picnic tables, and he was just as strong as can be. A very good example. He taught his children, my Aunt Marie and Uncle Bob, and of course my father Don, many, many different talents. And that passed on, which was very nice. I was 11 years older than Rachel, and I had the privilege to be really included in their family early on as a babysitter. And that went on for a number of years, and I was included in some of the vacations that took place also, which I have very fond memories of. Yeah, we did some very good trips together. Those talents that my grandfather passed on to his children, I believe passed on to Rachel also, because they were all talented, and they all just kept learning new things and passing them on. One of the fond memories I had, too, was the caramels. When I was a kid, we made the caramels as Christmas gifts also, and thank you for bringing that back. That brought some fond memories. As a family, we were always very close. Family was very important, and that has passed on through the generations, which has made it very special. Our children, we all live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, halfway across the country, but we found it very important. My wife, Rachel Williams is her name. We found it very important to include our children in activities that happen back here. So they're very close. Family has been very important over the years, and that just has been passed on, which is very special. Jim mentioned when there's a Williams, there's a way. We had calligraphy plaques made up. We have one in the entry of our home, and we gave one to each of our children, which they have in their home too, with her name on the bottom. It originated right from her. So it was very special for us that we wanted to continue with that. Rachel will be deeply missed, but never forgotten.
Hi, my name is Judy Gallardo Grace, and unfortunately I did not know Rachel nearly as long as the other speakers here and probably most of the people in the room, but I was part of her book group where we had spirited discussions and her caramels. But what I wanted to talk about is it's her enthusiasm for whatever she did. Bell choir, I was in bell choir when Rachel was in bell choir, and she was in the bass bells, and she was enthusiastic about it. She loved the bass bells. And I could never, kind of quite understand it. I was in the middle, so you were kind of always engaged. And I really appreciate her enthusiasm even more now, since things had changed and they need people to move down to the bass bells. And so I still don't understand how she can be there, because I'm in bass bells now. And sometimes counting 25 measures before I get to do my next note, and you would never know that from her. And I always try, I think about her now each time I do that, and she was joyful about it, just like she was about everything else she did. And I will really be thinking about her tomorrow when I play some of those bass bells.
Hi, my name is Laura, and the first time I met Rachel, it was at a yarn shop, and I saw this woman, and she was playing a harp in a yarn shop, and I was sitting there, and I'd just taken up knitting again, and I thought, okay. And then I found out she'd made the harp. And I thought, there's no way we're going to be friends. And that was 22 years ago. And, well, all you know Rachel. I mean, she's just wonderful. You know, she's just, I mean, everything she did was just marvelous. And it was, she's one of my best friends, and you know, when she got this blood clot, I had had a blood clot in June, and her text to me was, "I can do you one better." And I thought, no, this is not a competition, you know, and so it's like, I'm totally upset about that because no one wants to up one on that, but I'm just still marvel that we were friends because she was such a smarty pants, and it turned out that we both worked for Morgan Stanley in different capacities at different times, but we still had the same experience. And I don't know, I just love her so much, and I miss her so much, as you all do. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. Much loved.
Thanks everyone for being here. It's wonderful to see, you know, all the people that were special in her life, and I know there's so many more online that are watching that couldn't be here. But Rachel was a big part of my life. When I came up to Aurora to go to boarding school, she'd pick me up on weekends, and I'd be at her house, and hopefully not be causing too much trouble at school. But Rachel and I, we really had a special bond. We had a lot in common. You know, as we're family, we share a lot of traits. You know, we're both creative, both always interested in learning new things, in school forever as well. But she was just a wonderful person. But I think the thing that's, you know, I really admire about her probably the most, something that's evident by how many people are here. Rachel just had so much love in her. She just overflowed with love for people, for things, for the world around her. And it's you know, just wonderful to see that, be around that. And she brought so many people together. You know, whenever there's a family gathering coming up, you know, I'd either ask Aunt Joyce or, you know, Aunt Rachel, like, hey, what are the details? And they'd know it because they've been talking to everyone. They've been helping to coordinate that. And, you know, also got to become family with some of her friends. The Sandovals are my other family up here, and I love you guys to death. Thanks so much for everything that you're doing. But my Grammy, my grandma Caroline, you know, Rachel's mom, always looked for the best in people. That was something amazing about her. She just had this like superpower that regardless of what was going on in the world or what was going on in someone's life or, you know, what's going on between them, she just had this knack for just loving people so much. I think that Aunt Rachel really carried that on, and I want to do that as well in my life. But just with that, you know, let's remember her. The holidays are going to be really tough. That's how it was with Grammy. You know, losing her, you understand it. You're like, yeah, she's not here anymore. And then when you gather and she's not there, that's when it's really hard. So please think of us during that time, and thank you again for being here.
Hi there. My name is Kelly Clark, and I didn't know Rachel as well or as long as many of you, but I'd like to share a story. almost 10 years ago, my wonderful stepfather died, and short of a month later, I convinced my mother that she had to come from Michigan to come to the women's retreat. That's how I know Rachel. And Rachel was there and actually befriended both of us. I know that my mom has enjoyed her friendship over the years, go to movies. She was in her book club. For me, Rachel was a gift in that my favorite part of the women's retreat was the crafting. It was almost a religious experience. And so to have Rachel there leading it for so many years, we made spirit dolls. We made painting of several different types and how to paint, glass chalices of, things that she had collected from the Goodwill, old cups and candlesticks themselves, and we would turn them upside down and we would add marbles, and you can make it look like stained glass, or you can make it look like this or that. There were so many techniques. The year that we made leather and metal stamped, which I was having a dickens of a time because that was hard, she would just sit there with us, but to the point of, I would rather be there than, listening to the speakers sometimes. But there were a collection of women, friends of mine, that we would be there at night on Saturday night, and it would be, half a dozen of us, and Rachel closing the place out, snacking, drinking, and crafting till after midnight. And she would be there to show you and corroborate with you, and just such a giving and loving and creative spirit. And my mom and I will both miss her.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Berzini. I'm a friend of Rachel's. I don't remember when I met her. She framed something for us. And I can't get out of my mind all these memories that people are sharing. And here is Rachel in a frame. And I'm thinking to myself, that's who she was every time I was near her. She was always around, holding me close, always an encourager, always someone with that sweet heart. So what she framed for us, my wife and I got married in 1982, and my father-in-law wrote her something in calligraphy, and he was an artist and a painter, and it started out tender, dear, and then my wife's name. And the same words could be applied to Rachel, because that's how I felt every time I was around her. She was such a tender, dear person, so sweet. I'm so glad I was able to be here today. And then I was reminded, with all these stories, that that's the essence of Rachel. When I look at my life, if I ever want to find out what's important to me, I look, what did I spend my time on? Because I can say something's important, but no one's going to believe me if I never spent time on it. So she was in relationship with the people here and spent time on those relationships. That's how I know it was valuable to her, and we're all here spending time with her in this way. So it's important to us. Tender, dear, sweet Rachel, always with the smile, always with the gentle touch of, I'm there for you, framing my life. And that piece that was framed, that we went to the frame shop and got framed, was featured at my wife's memorial service 4.5 years ago. And it didn't hit me until I was sitting up there that here she is in a frame. I have a frame still that we picked out that means something to me. And it's just lovely.
We'll see if I get through this.
Actually, it'll be okay. First of all, Rach, thank you for sending Asphalta. I got parking. That was cool. Didn't think it was going to happen, and I know you were in charge. So I'm Candace. I've been a friend of Rachel's for about 20 years. I'd say we worked together, but we didn't really work together. We just happened to work at the same companies for about 20 years, right? And I can't really add anything to so many lovely tributes today. But I will tell you this little silly story. My husband liked to refer to Rachel as a Renaissance woman, and you've all described that about her, right? All the things she likes to do, and I call her a crow because every little sparkly thing that got her attention, and she'd travel that path, and you'd get excited along with her. I mean, and I just constantly, like, what about this? So our friends up here, one year we decided that we were all having some family issues, let's say, you know, as everybody does, and we had little flasks made, and we gave each other nicknames, and hers was What If Williams, and I'm sure you can appreciate that What If Williams, because of all the crazy things she liked to try and to do and was so enthusiastic about. The story Dave told me the other day was that he remembers Rachel coming to our house for a party, and I had a little dog at the time that, thank God she taught how to get down the stairs, otherwise I'd still be carrying that 10-pound dog up and down the stairs 20 years later. But he told me the story of watching Rachel in the backyard with my little dog, and she was running around, chasing Wheezy around with this joyful abandon. And I think that what I've heard from everyone here today, and Chris, sorry to follow up such a lovely, sweet tribute with funny, but she had a joyful abandon. And I think that is the thing that I'm trying really, really hard to hold on to today. Choosing the joy with her. So, thank you, my friend, for the joyfulness. I hope you all experience that on a daily basis. That's all I got.
None of us, even together, even if each one of us stood up at the microphone and told a story, can sum up the life of another person. Life is too precious to be relegated to mere words. Rather, it must remain as it is remembered by those who loved and watched and shared. Such memories are alive, unbounded by events of birth and death, and in these living memories of love, we possess the greatest gift that one person can give to another. Whatever remains of Rachel's spirit is at peace and beyond all harm. As she was good, that goodness will be her guardian always. As she was loved, so shall that love attend her forevermore. Now the work is left to us, the living, to carry forth the beauty and the joy of the life that has been taken from us. Where we would weep, she would perhaps have us laugh, or laugh and cry at the same time. Where we would mourn, she would perhaps have us rejoice. But we know that she would forgive us of our grief, for to grieve is to love, and to love is to give praise and thanksgiving for the life which has blessed us all. To that spirit of life, we pray for courage and strength, that our frailty be forgiven, our sorrows redeemed, the wounds of our loss healed. May we take comfort in knowing that whatever we have known and loved becomes a part of us and is ours forever. The love that we can no longer give to Rachel, may we give it to those who need it, as she would have us do. Live in love. Die in love. It is that simple and that difficult. May it be so.